Hello everyone, this is the fourth lecture on the chapter moving charge and magnetism. Today we will discuss force on a moving charge. So first we come across Oester's experiment. So Oester's experiment actually proved that moving charge creates a magnetic field around it. All right. Now to see what is there in the experiment, we have a circuit arrangement. Okay, in which you have a battery, you will have a switch over here, you have a resistance here. Now when no current is, let's say the switch is off, okay, and no current is passing through the circuit, then if you place a compass near the coil or near this circuit, then you will see that the compass is showing you the natural north-south direction, in this manner. All right. Now the moment you turn the key on and the current starts passing through the circuit, then you see that the compass starts deflecting. It deflects along anti-clockwise direction, right? Now if you allow the current, if you reverse the polarity of the battery, now the current is flowing in the opposite direction, the deflection also happens in the opposite direction now. Okay, so now the deflection is happening in the clockwise direction. So this is an evidence. Okay, so this is an evidence that when current passes through a conductor, it creates a magnetic field, because you know that a magnetic compass can only be deflected by another magnetic field. So magnetic field is created and therefore the magnetic compass deflects. All right. Now you have a rule called snow rule. To remember this direction of deflection, you have a rule called snow rule. Say current passes from south to north. Okay, current passes from south to north. So south to north, say here it is passing from south to north, right? C to D is south to north. Then the deflection will happen, okay, along the west. So the deflection is happening along west. The situation will just be different when you allow the current to pass in a reverse direction. Okay, I hope you can then find the direction of the deflection by using snow rule, and you know that whenever current passes through a wire, it creates a magnetic field around it. Okay. So the next topic is Fleming's left hand rule. Now previously we talked about right hand thumb rule, right? Now we have Fleming's left hand rule. In the next chapter you'll have Fleming's right hand rule. Okay, so they have different utilities. So if you see here, in Fleming's left hand rule we use 3 fingers. All right. So the direction of the magnetic field will be given in the situation, and the direction of the motion of charge, in fact positive charge, we always consider positive charge, then we can apply in case of negative charge also, once you understand for positive charge. So if you fix the magnetic field, or if you align your index finger along the direction of magnetic field, the middle finger along the direction of motion of the positive charge, okay, then the direction in which your thumb points, it will show you the direction of the magnetic force. Okay. So this is like whenever a charged particle moves in a magnetic field, the charged particle will experience a magnetic force. Now this magnetic force direction will be represented by the thumb. So if I repeat it again, if you fix the index finger along the direction of the magnetic field, the middle finger along the direction of the motion of positive charge, then the thumb will show you the direction of the magnetic force. Okay, so simple, it's pretty simple, but when you apply this, you have to be very careful. Okay, so now that we have talked about magnetic force, right? So we have a situation here. You have this magnetic field, say x, y and z axis. Okay, this we have considered x, this is y axis and this is z axis. Now magnetic field is along y axis, right? And a charged particle is flowing along this direction, say somewhere in between this, or you can say in the xy plane, or somewhere in between y and x axis, not along y, not along x. We'll come to those situations as a special cases. So the charged particle, positive charged particle, is flowing along this direction. In such a case, the magnetic force will be along z direction. So that is pretty obvious. Now the relation for this magnetic force, okay, this magnetic force Fm is directly proportional to the magnitude of the charge. Okay, the magnetic force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the magnetic field, and it is also directly proportional to sine of the angle between the magnetic field and the velocity vector. Okay, between the magnetic field and the velocity vector. Now if you combine these three, what you get is Fm proportional qv. Did I miss something here? This should be v sine theta. Okay, this should be v sine theta. Yeah, qvb. Fm is proportional to qvb sine theta. Now this third thing is magnetic force is proportional to sine to v sine theta actually. Okay, we don't say sine of the angle of theta, it is magnetic field is proportional to v sine theta. Alright, now if theta is equal to 90 degree, right, if theta equal to 90 degree, then v will the charge particle v will be along this direction and the charge particle will flow along this direction. Okay, if theta is 0 degree, then v will be along this direction, the charge particle will flow along this direction. So Fm is proportional to v sine theta, that is to be remembered, and by combining these three we get Fm proportional to qvb sine theta. Now this can be written as, now this proportionality can be written as k, this equality, this proportionality can be turned into equality by including a constant k qvb sine theta. Alright, so I'll come to this two rules shown over here. I'll come to this, that is showing you the direction only. Now, well, this, the value of this constant k is 1. Okay, k is a constant of proportionality, and the unit of b is so defined that the value of k comes out to be 1, and therefore we write down this relation as Fm equal to qvb sine theta. Okay, now in vector form you write this as F vector equal to q v cross b. Okay, v cross v is vb sine theta. Alright, so this is the relation. Now let's focus on the direction thing. Now this we already talked about in the Fleming's left hand rule. Now this is right hand rule only. Now this is something which we applied in case of vector product. If you remember in class 11, a cross b is equal to ab sine theta n cap. This direction of n cap, you used to find out the direction of n cap by using this, right? Or if you say that a cross b vector is equal to c vector, the direction of c vector is represented by this. Like when you go from a to b, right, when you curl from a, say this is a, and you curl from a to b, right, you turn your fingers, you curl your fingers from a to b, then the direction in which your thumb points is your direction of c. Similarly, in this situation, when you go from v to b, you'll curl from v to b. Okay, velocity v has to come before. So you go from v to b, then the direction in which your thumb points is the direction of the magnetic force. Okay, so you can use either of these two rules to find out the direction of the magnetic force. Now let's see the special situation for various values of theta and other values of qvb. What happens? So first case, theta equal to 0 degree or 180 degree, 0 or 180 degree. So what it means is that when theta is 0 or 180, if theta is 0, then charge particle is parallel to the magnetic field. If theta is 180 degree, then the charge particle is anti-parallel to the magnetic field. Or you can say that v vector is along this way. When it is 0, v vector is along this way, right? Under that situation, sine 0 or sine 180 is 0, right? So magnetic force value will be 0. Alright, so that is condition number 1. Condition number 2, is if theta equals to 90 degree. So in that case, Fm will be qvb. In fact, this is the maximum value that you can have for the magnetic force in this situation. Alright, sine 90 is 1 and Fm will be qvb. That is case number 2. Case number 3, when v equal to 0, that means the charge is at rest, the charge is not moving. Previously we talked about that the charge was moving, okay, as v vector. Now v is equal to 0. In that case also, no magnetic force will act on a charge at rest. Case number 4, when q equal to 0, then also Fm is 0. That means no magnetic force acts on a neutral particle, say neutron. Say you are allowing a neutron to pass through in this direction, right? No magnetic force will act on it. All right, so these conditions are clear, I hope. There is a note, you just read it by yourself. This should be understood. We have Lorentz force next. So Lorentz force is when a charged particle moves in a region of electric and magnetic field, it experiences Lorentz force. The simultaneous electric and magnetic force that the charged particle experience, you call that force to be Lorentz force. So what will be the electric force on the charged particle? The electric force will be QE. Okay, now if you don't remember this relation, I hope you have read about electric force in class 10. Okay, in class 11 you will be reading that in the first chapter. Yes, in the first chapter. Okay, electric force is given by QE. Now about magnetic force, we read it just now, that the magnetic force relation is QV cross B. In vector form you will put it in this manner. Electric force is also vector, electric field is also vector, therefore the relation will come out to be like this. Now Lorentz force is sum of these two forces, that is Fe plus Fm. Clear? So when you take Q common, you get E plus V cross B. So this is your mathematical relation for Lorentz force. Okay. Now we will see what happens when a charged particle moves in a uniform electric field and then in a magnetic field. Okay. So a diagram is shown over here. You have two plates. One of the plate is negatively charged, the other plate is positively charged, and therefore electric field will be along this direction, right? Electric field is always from positive to negative charge. Clear? Now you have a screen which is placed here, okay, and you have a point P here. You fire a positive charge. Okay, say this distance is x, this distance is x, this is however the x-axis and this is the y-axis. Now you fire a positive charge, right? Now due to the electric field, what will happen? The positive charge will go towards the negative plate, it will deflect in this manner, and finally it will hit a point, say P, on the screen. But we are concerned about this y, okay, the vertical deflection just before leaving the plate, the vertical deflection just before leaving the plate, and the distance that it traveled with which is x, okay, inside the plate. So after firing the charged particle, after firing the positive charge, the electric force experienced by the charged particle will be QE, right? Electric force will be QE. Now from here, the force relation is QE. Now from Newton's second law, we have acceleration relation as F by m. Yes. Now since this force we are talking about here is electric force, you can write down QE in place of F, right, divided by m. So this is your equation number 1. Now you see along the x-axis what is happening. Along x-axis, the distance traveled by the charged particle within the plate region is x, right? So s is x. The initial velocity and the final velocity along the x-axis will be same. Okay, the reason being there is no acceleration along the x direction, there is acceleration in the y direction only. Okay, because acceleration is being provided, or the charge is being accelerated to deflect this way by the electric field. Okay, because the electric field is acting along y-axis. So since there is no acceleration, therefore initial and final velocity will be same, and you can write down a to be 0. Okay, so you can say that why there is no acceleration, because there is no force along the x-axis, there is force only along the y-axis. Okay, therefore acceleration is 0, and since acceleration is 0, therefore initial velocity and final velocity is equal. So if you use the relation s equal to ut plus half at square, now this will become ut only, isn't it? Because your acceleration is absent. So x equal to vt we can write by putting the values above. So what is the time here? Time is x by v, which is equation number 2. Now let's focus on the y-axis. Along the y-axis, okay, so along the y-axis the vertical displacement is y, right? S is y, and initially it had no velocity along the y-axis, right? So initial velocity is 0 along the y-axis. Okay, therefore y equal to half of at square. Okay, we can write down the same relation. If you apply this relation, s equal to ut plus half at square, since initial velocity is 0, therefore ut component is 0, therefore s equal to half of at square or y equal to half of at square is what you can write, right? Now acceleration value is what we found out to be qe by m, right? And time square, that is x by v square. Okay, so these are like by using 1 and 2. Now you see here we can write down this equation as qe by m 2m v square x square. Now you notice one thing, charge constant for the charged particle, electric field uniform, therefore it is constant, mass of the charged particle constant, and initial velocity and final velocity same, right? So v is also constant. Yes, now this x, okay, or you can say this v was constant because this v was along x-axis, right? This t is coming from the x-axis part. Now this x is except x because you are plotting a graph between y and x. Okay, so the remaining part is a constant, therefore you can write it down as y equal to kx square, right? Where value of k is qe divided by 2mv square. Now this is the equation of a parabola. Okay, and the deflection y is proportional to charge by mass. Okay, that you get from here, from this relation. Y is proportional to charge by mass. So greater is the charge value, less is the mass value, more will be the deflection, and vice versa. Okay, so this is it. I hope this derivation is clear. We can move to the next topic. Now what happens when charged particle moves in a magnetic field? Alright, so we already have seen the relation for magnetic force, which is qvb sin theta, right? Now these two conditions we have covered before, but we'll be going through once again, like v parallel to b or anti-parallel to b. In this case theta is 0 or 180 degree. In such a case magnetic force is qvb sin 0, which is also equal to qvb sin 180, you can write down. Now in this case magnetic force is 0, right? Perpendicular case f equal to qvb sin 90 degree, right? Here this comes out to be qvb. Now maximum is the force value here. Now what happens, you see what happens to the charged particle, motion of the charged particle. Now here in this diagram, x is representing the magnetic field, right? The blue lines, blue cross are representing the magnetic field which is entering the page. Okay, cross means entering the page, so the magnetic field lines are entering the page. All right, now you fire a charged particle, positive charged particle. Now by Fleming's left-hand rule, now the charged particle is being fired on the like it is fired vertically upward on the plane of this screen. Okay, so charged particle is going along this way, magnetic field is perpendicularly inside the page. Now you apply Fleming's left-hand rule. Okay, by Fleming's left-hand rule, your index finger will point towards the magnetic field which is inside the page. Say this, right? Say this for this point, and this is pointing along the direction of the v vector, right? So this is pointing along this. In such a case f is showing you the force, right? Now similarly, exactly in the same manner you can apply this here also, and here also. Every time what you'll notice is that this is so interesting. In fact, every time you'll notice that your thumb is pointing towards inward. Okay, so it will represent, when you connect these dots, it will represent a circle. Okay, so you can say that whenever you project a charged particle, positive charged particle, perpendicular to a magnetic field, it will describe a circular path. Okay, so this is what you get when charged particle is fired perpendicular to the magnetic field b vector. Now here we have to calculate a couple of things. First, what will be the radius of that circular path, then time period, then frequency, then angular frequency. So there are numericals based on this. Now you see the centripetal force needed to describe a circular path is provided by the magnetic force, right? And therefore we can write down that centripetal force relation is mv square by r, and that is equal to qvb. Yes, qvb sin theta, sin 90, right? Sin 90 is 1, so you can write down mv square by r equal to qvb. Yes. So from here r is equal to mv by qb. Okay, so this becomes the radius relation will be applied in case of numericals. Now this can also be written as v by q by mb, r equal to v by q by mb. So from here, like this q by m is also known as a specific charge. Okay, charge by mass ratio is also known as specific charge. Alright, so this can be the other relation for radius. So this was radius relation. Next we come to time period. Okay, so time period t equal to, well, first of all, the velocity of the charged particle is 2 pi r. Say it is describing a circle of radius r, then the like angular displacement will be 2 pi r, isn't it? The circumference 2 pi r divided by t. So t is equal to 2 pi r divided by v. So you can write down 2 pi by v into, what is the value for 2 pi by v into r. What is the value for r? That is mv by qb. Okay, and you get this as 2 pi m by qb. Okay, so this is the relation for time period. Time period is 2 pi m by qb. Now you know that frequency is inverse proportion is inverse of time period, right? Frequency is inverse of time period, nu equal to 1 by t, and therefore the relation comes out to be qb by 2 pi m. And finally you have angular frequency. What is the formula? 2 pi nu is the formula for angular frequency, and therefore you get qb by m as the relation for angular frequency. Alright, now, well, these are the calculations. You'll be using this in numericals. Now the charged particle is describing a circular path. You see, velocity is a vector quantity, right? But speed is a scalar quantity. Okay, momentum is a vector quantity and energy is a scalar quantity. So if I say you in this situation, okay, velocity is changing and momentum is changing. Okay, velocity and momentum is changing, but speed and kinetic energy of the charged particle remains same throughout the circular path. Okay, they remain constant. So that point is there in the note. You can go through note number 1 and note number 2. Particles with same momentum will have equally curved paths. That is same value of r. So that also you can check from the relation r equal to mv by qb. So now this is particles of, what is it saying, of same momentum will have same radius. Okay, so how can you say that? Because field is constant. Yes, now particles of same momentum, if mv is same and b is same, then radius will depend on the charge. Okay, now if you have two protons, then they'll have the same radius. If you have a proton and electron, they'll have the same radius. Of course direction will be different, but radius of the curved path will be same. So that we can see. Now we have a situation here. The calculation I'm not going through, I'm leaving it for you, just it is shown over here. Look, from here, if momentum and field is constant, okay, or let's consider like if speed and field is constant, then radius will depend directly on mass and inversely on charge, right? So you are given a situation where you have an alpha particle, neutron, proton and electron, right? So this is the diagram actually. This is electron, neutron, alpha particle and proton. I have included positron also. Positron is an E particle of electron. It is E plus and electron is written as E minus. And only the charge is opposite, but the mass for a positron is same as electron. Okay. Now they are fired with same initial velocity in a constant magnetic field, right? You see, by applying Fleming's left hand rule, if you put your index finger inside the page, right, directed inside the page, and the middle finger is directed this way, vertically upwards, then you'll see that the thumb is pointing along the left. So all the positive charges are having a deflection along the left, right? The negative charge will have an opposite deflection, right? That is along the right. Now again, if you notice, the radius of this negative charge is same as this, because their mass and charge ratio is same, or you can say charge and mass ratio is same, charge by mass ratio. and the neutron is traveling along a straight line because no magnetic force acts on a neutral particle. Okay, so if you see the relation now, R is proportional to m by q, right? So just put the value for m by q, or if I let me show you this calculation, no problem. Okay, let me show you the calculation. So R is proportional to m by q, right? So for proton, Rp proportional to mass of proton is mp, charge is E, right? For alpha particle, R alpha proportional to 4 times of mp is the mass and charge is twice E. For now this becomes what? This becomes proportional to 2 mp by E, right? And 2 mp by E can be written as 2 times of Rp. That means the radius of alpha particle will be double of radius of proton. Now electron proportional to mass of electron divided by charge of electron, right? Only the direction will be different. I am not putting minus E here. Now you know that since it is negative charge, that will have a deflection opposite to positive charges. And finally neutron proportional to mass of neutron by zero charge. So Rn is infinity. So if you consider, if you want to show the okay, so if you want to show the radius connection, so infinity is highest, Rn greater than, then will come R alpha, then will come R proton. Now since numerator, you see denominator for proton electron is same, right? But numerator is greater for proton and therefore radius of proton is greater than radius of electron. Okay, so this is the relation. Now electron and radius for positron is same. All right, so this is shown by this diagram. I hope the diagram is very clear. So the radius of positron and electron is same. For electron, because it is negative charge, therefore the direction is opposite, deflection is opposite other than the positive charges. And here this radius or the deflections are in accordance with the above relation, and neutral particle is traveling along a straight line. Okay, so if you have understood this, then you can go through this homework. Okay, you can try this homework and share the results. Now we have the third situation. Okay, so we talked about charged particle going parallel to the magnetic field, anti-parallel to the magnetic field, right? 90 degree, then perpendicular to the magnetic field. Now we have a situation where it is not 0, not 90, nor 180. Okay, not 180. Then you are having the charged particle going, say we are considering 30 degree or 60 degree. You can consider any random angles of that kind. Right, in such a case, you see the magnetic field is along x-axis, right, and you are firing a charge now, making an angle, say 30 or 45 or whatever, right? In that case, this velocity vector will have component v cos theta along this. Like if it is fired by making angle theta with the magnetic field, then v cos theta will be along magnetic field and v sin theta will be perpendicular to the magnetic field. That is understood, I hope. Now if you get this, so you can say that the charged particle is having two kinds of motion here. One is this motion which is being given by v cos theta, and another is this circular motion which is actually given by v sin theta, right? Because v sin theta is trying to pull it along this direction, v cos theta is trying to pull it along this direction, and therefore the resultant motion comes out to be like this. This is called helical path, helix. Okay, the planets revolve around the sun in helical paths. Okay, you can check YouTube, helical motion of sun or helical motion of the solar system. That is a very beautiful simulation. Okay, we can discuss that after you go through. Now since v sin theta is responsible for giving the circular path, so you will write down that the centripetal force, which was mv square by r previously, now it is mv sine theta square by r, right? And this is being provided by the magnetic force. Now qvb sine theta it was previously, now you have qv sine theta b sine 90. Try to understand. Sine 90 was the angle between I should not be writing here sine 90. Okay, I should be writing here sine theta only, because when they were perpendicular to each other, then only we write down sine 90, right? So it is qv, but this will again create a problem, I guess. Okay, it will be sine 90 only. Okay, it will be sine 90 only. How? Because this angle will be the angle between v and v sine theta. V sine theta is along y and b is along x, right? So your angle is 90 degree here. Okay, now this becomes qvb sine theta only. Sine 90 is 1 and that sine theta remains. So after calculation you get a radius relation as mv sine theta divided by qb. Okay, so previously it was mv by qb, now you have mv sine theta by qb. The time period relation will however stay the same, because it is 2 pi r by v sine theta, isn't it? The time period relation 2 pi r by v it was previously. So 2 pi by v sine theta into r value is mv sine theta divided by qb, and therefore it gives you 2 pi m by qb only. Okay, same as before. So since time period is this, frequency will also be same as before, qb by 2 pi m. There is no velocity component in frequency, and angular frequency will also be same, that is qb by m. Okay, so these are the time period, radius, time period, angular frequency relations. Okay, now we have something called as pitch. Okay, in a helical motion we have something called as pitch. Pitch is while completing one complete circle. All right, one complete circle, the horizontal distance traveled from this point to this point, you call this as pitch. Ultimately you see this is one cycle only, from here to here this is one cycle. Okay, but while completing this cycle it has moved some horizontal, it has given some horizontal displacement also. So either you can consider in this diagram, you can consider it from here to this is half circle. Okay, this is one circle. Okay, now had they happened in the same plane, then these 2 points would connect, this would form this kind of circle. But this is also having, along with the circular motion, this is also having a forward motion in the x-axis, therefore the motion is this way. Okay, try to understand that the completion of one complete cycle, okay, say from here, or since I have shown this distance to be p, so we start from here to here, this is pitch. Okay, this pitch. So what is the definition? The definition of pitch is the horizontal displacement, okay, which is obtained while the charged particle describes one circular path. Okay, or you can check the actual definition in the book. So we'll be going through the relation only. There is pitch p equal to, now who is giving that horizontal displacement or the motion along the x-axis? It is given by this v cos theta component, right? So p is the displacement, p equal to velocity into time. Velocity is v cos theta into t. What is the value of t? T value is 2 pi m by qb, right? 2 pi m by qb, and therefore you get this pitch relation as 2 pi m b cos theta by qb. So that is your relation for pitch. Okay, so cyclotron has been taken off from class 12 syllabus. Okay, I have checked that in the reduced syllabus. Now from entrance examinations, not really, still you get questions from cyclotron. So if interested, you can go through the topic. However, the relations are exactly same. The radius, you can see here, this radius, then the time period, this is the time period. Okay, this is time for completing half a semicircle. If you read the topic, you'll understand. The radius, the time period, the frequency and the angular frequency, these all relations are same as before. So you can just go through the theory to understand what is a cyclotron and how it works, and then we can talk about this in case you have any confusion.